Welcome to Torn Into Muskegon's own political show with their host, Gregory T. Roberts. Good afternoon. How are you guys doing? It is October the 9th, 2020. Today's guest we'll get to in a second. You have 24 days, 10 hours, and roughly 58 minutes until Election Day. Do what I did. I've already voted. So you can see your clerk, go down to your clerk and vote early. That way you don't have to vote in 24 days. Top headlines. President Trump is out of the hospital and he's ready to go on the road. When asked about the question, is he still contagious? He said he would get tested today. That was yesterday. Stephen Miller, top White House, another White House person. That number is up to 20 of people that have tested positive for this virus. And number three, and I really need to talk about this a little more closer to home. Wednesday, Thursday, the FBI stopped a plot of a Michigan militia that wanted to kidnap the governor. Not only kidnap the governor, blow up bridges to slow police to get there. The facts are amazing on this story. Stay tuned because next week we're going to have our whole gang political team on to talk about the presidential debate, which will happen next week. A little bit about the debate which happened Wednesday, which was our first and only vice president debate. Give you a summary. It was a lot lower in tone. At least you can hear some of the questions and answers by both candidates. Both candidates did dodge some questions, but for the most part, it was a decent debate. I just have to, nothing to it but to do it, introduce you to our guests today, the distinguished, the honorable Mr. Cedric Scott. Give you a standing ovation. If I wasn't so heavy, I would stand.
Well, thank you, my friend. Thank you.
The topic today, people, is we really have to tackle this because you don't think it's connected to politics, but it is. It's connected to everyday life. And we want to make sure that you're doing okay, Muskegon. And just with this FBI thing right now is a bunch of guys, 13 guys that are angry and mad at the system. And so what are they going to do? Take justice on their own and go and kill a governor. There's some mental stuff going out there and we need you to know about it. My guest, like I said, is Mr. Cedric Scott. Let's get to it. Mr. Scott, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Doing well.
Good. Define mental health for us.
Well, the basic crux of it is it includes emotional, psychological well-being. It affects the way that we feel, the way that we think, the way that we act. Better way to explain that is think of it in terms of what is unhealthy mental health. Clearly, what you just described is the epitome of unhealthy mental health. That the thought processes that have been derived that you have a right or reason enough to consider kidnapping and murdering a person due to the fact that they disagree maybe with what you think and believe. Mm-hmm. That's a clear sign of unhealthy mental health, if you will.
Yeah, it's one thing to steal political signs, which is a crime, by the way, but to make up a plan, grandiose plan to kill a governor is not good mental health.
No. Mental health, good mental health is determined by the way that you handle stressors, the way that you handle stress and how you deal with others or your environment. And so clearly they thought that such a violent, heinous act such as that would be a reasonable, feasible way of dealing with your conflict is a clear sign of unhealthy thinking, just to put it moderately.
Okay, to the people that are watching on a 103.7 Facebook side, 106, uh, talk to us about mental issues that you deal with more in Muskegon County.
I am the owner and CEO of what's called Lazarus Man Consulting. It's located here at 2416 Peck Street, right in the heart of the city.
Get
Uh,
that plug in, brother. Get that plug in.
oh, my bad. I didn't know.
No, no, no. Get it in. I'm serious. We want
well,
people to know where they can go.
well, yeah, I'm really proud of it. I'm very proud of what we're trying to do here, and it was established to address the growing need for treatment of individuals with exactly that mental health issues, substance use disorders, things of that nature related to a lot of family problems and conditions that we suffered gravely in our community. So, yeah, I'm very proud of it. And it's I'm a master's level limited license psychologist. We
Mm-hmm.
have several other licensed master social workers here with substance use disorder certifications by the state of Michigan. We're also a substance use disorder licensed facility by the state of Michigan. And
Okay.
so I spent some solid time preparing the groundwork here to provide the solid services, competent homegrown services that I think fit our community. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm proud of it, and as you can tell, because I jumped right into it to get that plug in, and because I really want people to
I ain't
know.
mad at you. Get it in.
I want people to know we're here for them. That's what
That's
we're
right.
here for. I currently have contracts with the state of Michigan, and it's very. I'm very proud of that because I've had that contract for quite some time, many years, and
Mm-hmm.
so much of a need for matching my services with the community that other communities or the counties have asked me to sign on and contract with them as well, Kent County, other, and so I'm very proud of that. But yeah, some of the types of clientele it varies, low to moderate, depression,
Mm-hmm.
anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
substance use, severe, uh, dysfunctional family systems, hence domestic violence. Uh, I have a direct line of referrals from, say, courts and lawyers in town, and so we provide some supporting treatment systems or for those type of individuals as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's I like to think of it as a diverse treatment center, in that we address a number of different issues that
Okay.
our community suffers from.
That's a perfect leads right into the next question. Since the pandemic, I was talking to a police officer, captain, and he said that they are dealing with more suicides, more shootings, domestic violence is up. He said, what he said, the example that he gave me, he said they used to get maybe a phone call a day or two with shootings. He said they're dealing with shootings every day. He said when it comes down to drug overdoses, you might get one every now and then. They're dealing with three or more a day. Would you agree that that's going on right now, and why?
Um, Definitely, I would agree, and I would agree that the uh, the pressures of what we're experiencing with the pandemic and as well unemployment,
Mm-hmm.
racial injustice, all the above things that have been very well isolated now or really pressed down on a small community like ours, as well as nationally.
Mm-hmm.
That yes, that has compounded our mental health. And again, as I started out talking about how we deal with stressors, these are stressors, racial injustice, stressor,
Mm-hmm.
poverty, hopelessness, despair, stressors. And how we deal with those stressors is hence our mental health. If our mental health was wavering before we begin to get this additional stressor, if you will, of unemployment, of possibility of receiving a virus that's deadly, can kill us in days, let alone hours. So that's an additional stressor. that
Mm-hmm.
will force our hand, if you will, of anxiety, depression, despair, all the above. So now, without counseling and without proper guidance, how to best address those things, we resort to the unknown. We resort to what we think will provide us the relief, which is
Mm-hmm.
violence, possibly
Mm-hmm.
drugs, alcohol, promiscuous sex, even all the above things that we do to pacify us, to make us feel better. Quite frankly,
I,
throughout our
you
life.
I have not in a political season. I've never seen a year um, of what we are experiencing now, or anyone, especially with the virus going on in 2020. But I see and get a lot of phone calls from friends that are struggling. What can I do to help those other people and
Uh,
keep myself in check?
right. Well, what you probably run into on a day-to-day basis with your friends, because I'm sure your friends are a lot more together than most, is what we would call low stress type symptoms. Not necessarily the high grade depression but or anxiety, but that low grade depression anxiety that's beginning to be exacerbated by our circumstances. But for the most part, that's a positive self talk. That's an exercise. That's a removal from the stressors. That's a plan of relieving the stressors that can also provide some relief with so
Mm-hmm.
that low moderate type stress situation. That's the kind of stressors that we're going to experience most of our life anyway. So that's why most people live in sort of a regimented type lifestyle that accommodates those stressors. In the sense that we got that coming, we know it's going to be coming. So now I know I'm going to deal with it. So I'm not gonna commit suicide about it because I'm going to deal with it. You understand what I'm saying?
Definitely understand, but this has happened to me when I was in the fire department. That I had neighbors, running on calls with neighbors that killed themselves, they hung themselves, you name it. But this time, right now in 2020, you see a surge of people that are struggling, like I said, with the domestic violence, with drugs, the masking, the alcohol, sex abuse, and stuff like that. When I get a call from that person, what dictates from someone that is like a 10, get this person help, or one, this person's okay, maybe I need to go over and talk to him?
Without being a trained clinician, I was just listening to the tone, the gait of those, the voice of those individuals. The gait, I mean, in terms of is their speech troubled? If there is their speech incoherent? If not, then that may give some indications of the level or of the stressor they're experiencing. But now, if anyone ever tells you that I have these intentions of doing something to myself or to others, then that's something that has to be taken seriously. And then I would highly advise a referral be made and contact someone. And especially if they tell you who it is they're going to hurt, then you have to tell that person that they're going to hurt about that, as well as the authorities. I would warn. But for the most part, when they're just simply venting that they're just feeling these overwhelming stressors, uh, there's some techniques you can use to talk them off the ledge, if you will, and then get them into someone that's a trained professional, preferably Lazarus Man here at 2416 Peck.
Okay, what if it's 11 o'clock at night? Does it become no one is open? And I've had this is I know about this kind of call. It's 11 o'clock. What do I do? This person is calling me. They have 1 foot on a banana peel and 1 foot over the cliff. What can I do?
There's a hotline. There's a Health West hotline that the counties maintained for years, and I believe they're mandated to maintain that helpline, suicide watch and helpline 7. I believe it's 231-722-3200. That's
Okay.
the access line. I believe that's still open.
Okay.
Um, and so that is one place they can contact. Any emergency room, I would advise to make that call there. They would redirect you as well as Lazarus Man Consulting. Is I have a duty to make sure that I'm available at at any time for my patients if they so have such emergencies as well. But first, Health West. Second, hospital. Third, you've always got my number. You can always call me, my brother.
Man, appreciate it. I know I'm going off script here, but I got to get these questions in. To the person, now I know two stories of two people that I love that I don't hear anymore, but they were crying out for, I need help now. And one guy walked into a place and he said, I'm going to kill myself. And they said, you're fine, just go home. He brought his gun back in and says, okay, when I walk out of here, I'm going to kill myself. The second guy said the same thing, different situation. I'm going to kill myself. And we just called the police. Okay. At some point, when you are dealing with emotions and you feel that you need to get help, would you agree to this? You don't say, take no for an answer. You go somewhere and don't take no for an answer.
Well, unfortunately, in both of those scenarios, whomever they reported that to may want to revisit their assessment of suicide ideations because on both of those scenarios, that individual should never have been allowed to leave without being further evaluated, in my opinion. Of course, that's my opinion. And so, yes, it has to be taken serious anytime anyone expresses a feeling, desire, want to harm themselves,
Mm-hmm.
especially to the extent I'm saying I'm going to end it. That has to be taken serious, and deep evaluation should be conducted, and therapy should be explored. To the extent that even there may be a need to be hospitalized.
Right. And one of the situations was it actually both of them ended up in the hospital. One we had to go all the way to Paw Paw, Michigan to get a bed. Is there enough beds for mental health?
I can't answer that accurately, but there always seems to be a need for more beds, therapists, services, resources, funding. That's I've done this more than 25 years, and so I've never known of a time where any of the organizations that I've been associated with have said, we don't need any more money. We got enough. We have enough resources. Stop it right there."
Okay.
Never has never been the case. So
I was going to say that has never been the case. Hey, you have a good friend, Michael Smith from Houston, Texas, listening. Thank you for watching and listening.
my mentor,
Your mentor.
you know, these guys were legends on that court during that time.
Yeah, I was a legend on the court too, but that was a court to the food. So,
It was good to hear from him. It's good to hear from him.
now let's get deep, man. Let's get deep. Now I gotta go there. Okay.
Okay.
We as African Americans, what and do we seek help when we're in trouble or need to talk to somebody?
I like to think we do more now than ever. In the past, we've always laid our burdens down at the altar with the pastor. We all grew up in that. Well, I won't say all. That's really stereotypical, but for the most part, we've relied a lot on our religious faith, our church orientation to solve most of our problems. And I'm going to make a lot of people angry here, but I'm going to say it to a high extent, great extent, that has been proven to not be an efficient way of dealing with what we've overlooked for years is clear unhealthy mental states, to say the least. But that's
Break
just a
that
number opinion.
break that down for us.
Well, in a lot of our circumstances throughout the course of our religious orientation, we've downplayed, overlooked let's say some depression,
Mm-hmm.
you know, anxiety, and even some of the more severe mental health issues such as schizophrenia, schizotypal type behaviors. And here's what I mean by that. And I'm not saying everyone, but there's been times, I'm sure you can even co-sign with me on this one, when an individual has said, the Lord's talked to me, and I hear the voices of angels. And people are sharing with me time and time again that, God, they believe it's God speaking to them, even while they're walking from, I don't want to go there. But the point I'm making is some of the mental health issues are overlooked
Okay.
uh, because of our religious orientation.
Okay.
Not, I'm not claiming that everyone that believes God speaking to them is at another level of mental health. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we overlook it at times because we think we'll claim that individual is just pleasing God at a greater extent than most. Am I right or wrong?
Uh, I agree with you. A lot of the times we say, well, God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. And I got a few things on my mind, but I'm going to talk to the pastor. I'm going to pray, and I'm going to get that healing, and I'll be okay tomorrow, and wake up tomorrow feeling worse.
Nothing,
And
and there's nothing wrong with having faith that God is going to inject the spirit of love and hope and the things that God do to help your circumstances become better. But God also created psychologists, and
he
God
does use
also
people.
helped facilitate the understanding of psychopathology. God
Mm-hmm.
also facilitated the help those individuals to put long hours and painstaking hours into understanding psychopathologies and the
Mm-hmm.
psychological aspects or underpinnings associated with mental health disorders, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you truly believe in God, you got to believe in God's people, the people that God have educated and trained to help facilitate that recovering process based on our spiritual and God-like understanding, right?
Right, knowing that he will sometimes send someone to help.
Yes, yes. And what I forget the scripture, but don't mistreat people because you never know when you're entertaining an angel.
Well, pass the plate. Well, pass the plate there, brother.
Well,
Wow.
so that's my point. I'm not meaning that in a anti-religious way, and I have to be. You got to be careful about that because I was born and raised, brought up in the church, and I don't mind plugging Christ Temple. That's where we grew up at Bishop Barrow, and I spent my entire childhood and life growing up in the Pentecostal apostolic faith, and I'm a believer in God. I am. I'm proud to say that.
Amen.
However,
Me
I
too.
understand that there's a more specific need in using uh, uh, psychometric instruments and psychotherapy to help address mental health issues in a very specific way. I understand that,
Okay.
and I do it with the faith of God in the whole process, and while I'm doing that,
Okay.
prayer without works, dead.
It's dead. What about men? Because men, it's our business. We don't want people to know our business. We can take care of ourselves. The next thing you know, it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Men, we like to isolate ourselves, and women, you need to hear this. Women, we like to isolate ourselves and don't talk. Um, what should you do? I'll even give you an example because I'm very transparent. Um, when I was in the fire department, I would see all these tremendous, terrible things. And my way of protecting my wife was I wouldn't talk about the issues, but I would go home quiet. I would go home. And so she's wondering what's wrong with me. Finally, we had a long talk, and she said, "What do you think I'm here for?" I might not know quite right what to say, but I'm here for you.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to men out there, Cedric, because we need to hear from you.
Well, that's a great example of us turning our emotions inward in a sign of strength. Men are not supposed to cry. Remember that we was taught
Oh
that as
yeah,
a child. And so we're brought up to believe that because we're males, is a sign of strength not to show pain, not to show any weakness. When that's a cultural dynamic, if you will, sometimes not just for blacks, but for most men in general. Because all our whole sustenance, if you will, is based upon our ability to provide and survive and thrive more than most. But that's not true. That's how your emotions have to be expressed in one form or another. So when we don't express it in a healthy way of a conversation, when we don't express it in a way of activities, exercise, or things of that nature, we turn that inward. That's a high cause of one of our most causes of high blood pressure, with the exception of biology, physiology, some DNA and some foods, but the lack of exercise and the lack of our expression of our emotions just turned inward is deemed to cause another stressor, if you will. What's one of the contributing factors to high blood pressure? Stressors. What's a contributing factor to cancer? Stressors. Sure, there's DNA. Sure, there's blood, and there's other issues, biological issues that contribute to it as well. But whenever you speak to a physician and you get a physical, and they talk to you about your whatever issue it may be, blood pressure, heart rate, first thing they talk about is what? Exercise. Relieving stressors. Is there something bothering you? They want to know these things because us not expressing ourselves, our expressing our pendant up anxieties or resentments or issues of concern that is just really keeping us up at night. Those are all contributing factors to poor health.
One thing the doctors will do in their assessment, they will ask, has anyone in your family suffered from? And a lot of the times they find that it is down your family chain that maybe there's cancer or mental illness or depression or alcoholism.
But you can clearly see how that's a DNA issue, sure. But you can also see further down in that conversation that physician usually says, and are you stressing from anything over the last 6 months, year, or month, or whatever, right? Because he also going to tell you that you really going to have to learn to relax. You're going to learn to express yourself more. To help relieve any of the stressors that may be dragging on your health.
Okay.
I've heard that 1,000 times.
Wow. Listen, we're down at the bottom of the hour. We're gonna pay some bills. You watching or listening to Mr. Cedric Scott. This is Torn in Two with your host, Gregory T. Roberts. Show happens 2:00 every Friday. Today's topic is mental health. We'll see you in a couple minutes.
Why aren't you voting?
When you vote, you can do something about everything. At voteforyourlife.com, it's never been faster or easier to make a plan to vote.
Time is running out, but you still have the chance to use your power.
Check your registration and make sure your address on file is correct.
Find your state's deadlines, learn about local candidates, and request a ballot.
You'll be able to see where candidates stand on issues you care about.
Order a ballot request form to be mailed to you with prepaid postage,
allowing you to vote early, easily, and safely.
Make a plan to vote early by finding your nearest ballot drop box, in-person polling place, or local mailbox.
And this is where you rise, this is where you shine, this is where you become the greatest of all time. History in the making.
Vote for your life.
America, land of the free. It's at the core of who we are. Freedom. The freedom to live without fear, to drive through all 50 states, to sleep safely in our own beds, the freedom to jog where we please, to watch birds in the park, to wear a hoodie, the freedom to breathe. Before we celebrate the freedom most Americans have, we must fight for the freedom all Americans deserve. Because no matter your religion, gender, disability, age, race, all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter.
Welcome back to Touring into Muskegon's own political show. I'm your host, Gregory T. Roberts. Sandra, thank you for the comment. And Shamika, thank you for the comment. Excellent information being provided. Enjoying this interview. I'm enjoying it well. I want to go back to as what we're taught as men. Don't cry. Suck it up. As I used to tell my kids, put some dirt on it and get back in the game. So I really want, okay, we talked about men. We can finish up with men and go into women, the matriarchs. So, Mr. Scott, what do we do? Why don't we go?
Well, just let me, you really touched a deep memory for me. That suck it up. I'm a little old school too. So I'm not sure I'm going to give you a progressive answer here, okay? Because I grew up playing sports, and I grew up with the old school guy, the guy that visited our show just now, Keith, Mike Smith, and Danny, and all those. See, the old schools taught you that, and if you could handle that, you could play with them on the court with them. You could play on the football field with them. But you couldn't be a little whimper, a little snot-nosed kid crying. But what happened is we went steps further with every aspect of our life, and not, admitting when we were sick or ill, even so much that because you wanted to keep on and giving an impression of strength.
Mm-hmm.
Until we change the culture that it's not necessarily a strength-based thing, but for denial of weakness, denial of poor health, mental health included. And then until we change that culture, this will continue. Now, women, on the other hand, since we're alluding to the women now, and I have to say their culture is a little different. Women express themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Women talk all the time. A lot. About things.
Clear that. You better clear that out. I have to go home
important things. No, you don't have to worry about them. They're going to tell you what's going on with them for the most part. They're going to express themselves. But they live longer than us, I think. A lot of reasons. But, and it makes sense. And it makes sense. And I'm, again, from that old school. I can't stand talking on the phone. But then what I do realize and understand that most men don't express themselves because they really don't have a lot of people that they can trust.
Mm-hmm.
That they can trust that their business isn't going to be talked about all over there. How many times have you been snickered at about things, mistakes you've made, or relationships you've been in, or issues that you made poor decisions about? And we guys we're horrible. We're
right.
horrible. We'll mash it on you, boy, and we'll keep bringing it up.
Right.
But when they can find, I find that when men come and see me here and they realize that what's said here stays here, and that they have a legal protection for whatever's said here, I don't think they really open up immensely for the most part. Now, will that increase their livelihood or will that increase their lifespan? I tend to think so. There's a lot of statistical data that says it will. There's a lot of statistical data that says it will in the American Psychological Association, that we're expressing ourselves will increase our health and well-being, that we exercise and that we diet well, and etc. So
Sandra said, all right now. All right now.
I took it back. Didn't I take it back?
You talked about diet. You talked about diet, eating, and what we take into this temple affecting the brain. Can you talk a little more about that further?
Sure. Just as well as most of your emotional states, anxiety and depression. Or no, let's just say anxiety. Let's take anxiety. Anxiety is really an emotional based disorder in the sense that what you see, what you perceive, really triggers and exacerbates that disorder,
Mm-hmm.
as well as diet, exercise being used to help alleviate the disorder. Eating well, creating the nutrients that you most flourish from, exercising to alleviate the excess norepinephrine or the excess adrenaline used
Mm-hmm.
to create that heightening anxiety feeling on a constant basis based upon our perception of the world and whatever is happening or going on around us.
All right.
That's one example of a disorder that can clearly be marginalized by the use of an understanding of exercise, diet,
Mm-hmm.
and our change of our perceptions in our world.
All right. Going
So
back to Houston, um, with Michael Smith, he said, for men, the peer pressure is real, but what do we need to exhale and admit we need help sometimes as men?
wow, we need a strong, hard, steady dose of reality that we all have failed and fallen short in the glory of God.
Yep.
So that the
Amen.
that deep guilt sensation and feelings of making an error doesn't have to brand you for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Society has taught us to do that over and over again, and that if you've made some mistakes in your life and that you shouldn't tell anybody about any of your faults and flaws because you'll be judged based upon those flaws. That's
You better say that again, because the thing is, I'm very transparent about. There's a forest of trees out there, and I hit most of them, but I don't want my kids to hit the same old trees that I hit. So listen to me, because I'm trying to give you some advice. So hit that one more time. Sandra said, "True, that's a real partner of self care."
yes. Yeah, that's pretty much what we need to exhale, though. No, you agree, Greg?
I agree.
When we can accept that we're full of flaws, that we're flawed, and that we're only trying to practice our excellence or from a day to day basis, and we do the best we can to do that. I didn't say perfect. I said excellent. That we're trying to become excellent, do better with what we have from day to day. Cards aren't dealt the same with everybody, so we play with the cards that were dealt to us.
I think you made something a very important statement. You may make two steps forward, but you might drop back one. It's not a failure. You just got to get back up. I like the gospel song, "Stand." You just got to stand
I know.
and address the situations that you need to.
Absolutely. And once you can do that, and we as a people understand that, and we're less, or I don't know that we'll ever be less super critical of one another. I think it's more on the individual to understand that that's how people are sometimes. Like a good saying is, understand why people don't understand you.
Mm,
Takes away a lot of the angst and anxiety, don't you think? And
well,
so those are all self care, self affirmations, things that we must do from a day to day basis. If we're doing what we believe in, if we're trying to be the excellence that we can be from a day to day, then that's the best we can do. After
mm,
you've done all you can do, just stand anyway.
mm.
Isn't that how the song goes?
I got a question here. So, what happens to men or women who suppresses childhood sexual abuse? Is it ever too late to seek help or seek care?
I don't think so. I don't
I
think it's
don't
ever too late. But that internal angst that we were talking about early, that we internalize our feelings, that creates the anxieties, that creates some more or exacerbates the depression and exacerbates the anxiety, that internal feeling and inappropriate behaviors, the unhealthy thinking, the unhealthy behaviors. That's all part of that internalizing sometimes our childhood traumas,
Mhm.
abuse, etc. And more people than you realize, Greg, have experienced that.
Right.
More people than you realize. And so my suggestion to anyone listening and have experienced those things is no, it's not too late. It is always the right time to alleviate that burden, if you will, from your childhood and past, and not continue to allow it to dictate your today or your future,
Hmm.
because you have a purpose on this earth just like anyone else, and more so sometimes, I think. But so no, it's time today. I feel like I'm making an altar call here, but it's the
You
truth.
know what?
It's the
It's
truth.
got to be brought out. Sandra said, "I wish men cared as much about seeking mental health assistance as they do about sports scores or their cars or their outward looks." Whoa, she went there. Period. No
Sandra.
exclamation point times three. Doctor, take it away, Sandra. Good question.
Well, she just stated sort of a underlying part of a mental disorder, if you will, a mild case of narcissism or something else of that nature. Just,
Hmm.
I'm just kidding. That's not. But that's also part of us compensating for those internal things that we've internalized, if you will, and everything doesn't necessarily have to be a disorder. It's just an unhealthy, if you will, thought process,
Hmm.
unhealthy behavior process
Hmm.
that's really not productive as much as I would like to see an individual have, but for whatever purpose it suits them. So you may not like the fact that they like fancy cars or they spend more time on trivial things, but it pacifies or serves their purpose until they're ready, if you will, to expand and seek other more productive lifestyles or activities. So to each his own, I would say. It takes all types of people to make the world go round. And not all those types of people are mass murderers, abusers, murderers, and suffering from severe mental health disorders. It's just people do different things that they enjoy.
Okay. Speaking of mass murderers and different things, 2020 has been insane. These numbers, people are so dug in politically that's why I really wanted to bring you on this show to break this stuff down. That you can get so I find people watching the news 24/7, and I find themselves getting into a darker place. This year has been just insane. Do you see the same thing? And what are some things that we can do to help that situation?
Well, I think in many ways it's been an enlightening type of a period for us to understand that many people don't understand the deep seated, deep rooted hatred that many have for people that don't look or think like them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's forced that out into the open where more understanding, more education about that will help enlighten many. But then there are always going to be many who don't want that enlightening, because then it takes away their sustenance. It takes away what their core belief systems are. And why would they seek enlightenment on something that makes them feel or valued a certain way? So what you're talking about, I think, is the political differences in that my always when I think of politics is who gets what,
Mm-hmm.
who deserves what. And so those who deserve the things, think that they deserve the things first or most, are never going to relinquish that thought process.
Mm-hmm.
But those who are progressive and open to both and everyone deserves this is if in fact there's a criteria that we all hold about who should get what and when. But to some extent, most things should not have that criteria. Who gets medical treatment? Who gets support resources in their community based upon what? Based upon my skin color? Based upon my height, my weight? So what it's done, in my opinion, is forced our hand into taking a look at the criteria and our belief systems in our community.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me now. I'm just, I get in a lot of trouble for this, but that's how I feel. And so I don't think that you and I are thinking that because we're African Americans, we deserve respect just as everyone else does. There's something that we need to back off of. And I never will. I believe I should be treated with dignity and respect just like anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't be at the back of the bus. I don't have to be at the end of the table, in the pits, if you will, the last in, the first out. I don't think that's fair, nor will I ever accept that. I think that I have the right to participate and compete just like anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And so most people that I talk to, and I see the society in a much deeper extent of that, wrestling with that whole concept.
Mm-hmm.
Who gets what?
Mm-hmm.
How come you feel that you're being treated unjustly? We've always gotten things that you haven't gotten. What's your problem now? You follow me?
Follow you. What are the symptoms that we should look into a depressed person, an addict, or someone that needs help?
Depression, sad, down for the most part, not enjoying things that they ordinarily do. Maybe expressing themselves as useless, not worthy of existence, not worthy of being here today. Anxiety, restlessness, can't get right kind of feeling, uneasiness, kind of like my man on that movie Life. They called him "Can't Get Right." Can't just
Can't get right.
never make sense. Can't make sense of things. Can't sit still. We mistake that a lot of times for attention deficit. It's anxiety oftentimes, and so things like that. People call it for help in many other ways. Adolescents, children, depression is different. You know that little weird, little quirky thing that a kid does. You just can't understand why you keep doing that. Depression, different symptoms, different symptomology with kids. So all those things can be signs and symptoms of depression, but most of the times it's not as severe as we think. It just requires some rethinking, a little counseling, some ongoing counseling that can be remedied in short sessions, 6 sessions, things of that nature. So
Sandra said you definitely need to pass the plate after this interview because Mr. Scott is preaching.
God, that, you know what? That is the last thing I want to do. So I missed my mark today.
Now, what I tell you what I need you to do, I'm going to go off script again because I was that kid. I was the kid that grew up where there was domestic violence in the household. I was that kid that's, don't remember a birthday. It wasn't a birthday. It wasn't Christmas. It was a domestic violence issue. That was the first thing instilled in my brain. Talk to the kid that is going through that. We went from middle class to extremely poor and drugs addiction. Talk to that kid right now that needs help. And plus, bullying used to have you just run home fast and it was done for a while. But now it just goes 24/7 with all Facebook and internet, everything that we have in internet. Where do we go with all this stuff, Cedric? Where do we go?
God knows I wish I had the answer because that is such a horrible, we have such a horrible environment at times. My wife teases me all the time. I say Facebook's the devil. It's just like that's not a therapeutic answer. It's the devil. Stay away from it. But I still think that a lot of what we were taught, for the most part, as a people, in terms of being in our solid development of solid productive personality still prevails.
Mhm.
What Facebook and all these social medias allow people to do is demonstrate their a snapshot of what they want you to see, if you will. If I want to create resentments and bully you by saying, for example, that my life is better than yours, because look at this, and they show you a snapshot of them maybe with some imitation gold and diamond, and then you go, if you're if you don't have a support system that is sound and healthy to say, kid, that was, or person, that was just a snapshot of what they want you to think,
Mhm.
and that has nothing to do with whether or not they're a good person or not. What's valued most, being a good person or having stuff? See, I think a culture of that will prevail or supersede any of that social media thing. That's my best hope, if you will, of overcoming Facebook, because I truly don't have the answer. I experienced this whole thing, the same thing in my family as well, and so it's personal to me that kids have been bullied on Facebook, and I think that's worse than being bullied like you were, chased home or run home in school, Greg. And here's why. And this is not a scientific or psychological treatment process that I'm about to share with you. Because the bully back when we were growing up that took our marbles, we could settle it with him at school. You're right, because I could go back and get my marbles, and I could hit him in the eye. And win or lose, I solved that problem.
I
So
feel you
that's
now. Keep
kind of
on going. Keep on going.
so now I'm not saying do that, but
You
I'm just
can't do it
saying,
now because you get shot over marbles. I
yeah,
mean, you
yeah,
can't.
that's horrible. That's horrible.
You know. So here's it. Comes down to this: we in the generation right now in Mesquite County with the health issues, we're like number one or always in the top four with health, with mental illness, with you name it. We are in those bad categories. Speak to that person to to get better that um, child molestation and grew up under the abuse and see, because me in my mind I was blessed by God that I said what I see I don't want to be like,
Mhm.
and I took that on at 5. So talk to those kids out there that need that help.
That's that's exactly how I proceed in addressing that kind of issue with children. Is that it's not your fault. It's not your fault. What you see going on is not your fault.
Please say that one more time because they need
It's
to hear.
it's not your fault. What's going on, the abuse, the neglect, the violence in your home as a child is not your fault.
Or you
You
being sexually
not your
abused is
fault.
not your fault.
You did not ask for it. You did not cause it. It's not your fault. The first chance you get, you tell someone. The first chance you get, you tell someone you can trust in authority to help stop it, to help stop it. You get the help you need. And for the adult who have experienced that and gone through that trauma, get a qualified therapist.
Hmm.
Get a qualified therapist to help you understand and go through that process in a healthy manner so that you can come out on the other side being the high class quality person, the individual that God designed for you to be.
Do you during this political season? I remember in 2016 coming home and people in tears because the way that the election happened. This year, it is going to be not a political day; it's going to be a political week or weeks. How do we get ready for about what's coming up? And I'll be right with your question in a second, Michael.
Okay. Um, it's great. That's a great opportunity to participate and continue the conversation about how you would like to see the change occur in the country, the world, and understand that how gain more understanding how come people don't see things the way that you do, or understand things to be the way that you would like them to be. It's all the conversation to gain an understanding that number one, we don't control others. We can influence the way things associate or occur in our country, in our community, by our democratic vote and participation, but we don't have all the power.
Exactly. Say it comes down to free will, because you might not understand what the someone supporting the other candidate is. You can't control them. You can control yourself and your actions. And I think that's a big thing that needs to be clarified.
That's right. So, and if you don't go into this this is my pet peeve here. This tells that what era we're from. That question that Keeb is presenting to us.
Yeah.
This is something my wife and I have a debate about constantly. Participatory trophies.
Yeah.
If you don't get in the political process and vote, pound the pavement, make those calls of people who don't usually vote for the NAACP, things of that nature, then you don't get a trophy. You don't get to win.
If you stay home and don't vote, you're voting for the other person.
But now I understand why, being a psychologist, I understand why people don't. Because after you lost so many times, and after even when you win, you lose, it begins to become disheartening, and you feel like, what's the use? That takes a special entity or a special person to say, you know what, you got me that time, and I know you cheated, but I'm gonna fight you again. I'm gonna play you again. I'm gonna keep trying to win until I die.
Mm-hmm.
Not many people are cut that way. Not many people have that DNA.
Right.
So that's what has to occur for us. That's what in our community has to happen. We have to continue to believe and have faith and hope and continue to toil until we can win, until we can gain the access to the things that we hope that we can or that we're seeking from day to
Okay,
day.
so winding down now. What should we do as far as politics wise, political wise? Like you said, it's the thing you can control is you.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, somebody's going to be the president, and we don't need you to be ready to jump over a cliff because of the choice of others.
No.
You went way too deep.
No.
Would you address that, Cedric?
Well, absolutely not. I mean, ultimately, you're voting for? What are you hoping from in the presidency? I'm hoping that what you're hoping for is a political system and processes that are inclusive. It grants you an opportunity based on your content, based on your effort, versus being isolated or discriminated upon.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're fighting for, and that's a worthy cause. But if you are you have a different perspective that the others should lose and you should win instead of an all and perspective, then that's going to create another angst, which you'll find yourself fighting off as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have an answer for that. I just think that it's a political process that we are always going to be held account for, and we're going to have to participate in order to gain the gains that we think that we need as a society, American society,
Mm-hmm.
and you take the wins with the losses. And
Right.
that's what participating and competing should teach us.
Right.
And if you don't win, you shouldn't get a trophy either. If you don't win, you shouldn't get the same thing as the team who did the extra push-ups.
Get up to the extra push-ups.
All
That's
right.
right.
Well,
I always told our kids,
I'm
we got to
going
be
back to
better.
that.
We got to run faster. We got to be better. Cedric,
I'm going back to that. Everybody shouldn't get a trophy, Greg.
I agree with that. Not everybody should get a ribbon or a trophy. You should earn it.
That's
Okay,
right.
Cedric, last word. How do people get in touch with you if they need help or have additional questions?
Two ways. You can go on my website, all lowercase, LazarusMan.com, LazarusMan.com, or you may contact me by phone, 231-740-2401, and walk in 2416 Peck Street, Muskegon Heights, homegrown community counseling services.
Cedric, thank you so much. Michael, thank you for watching the show from Texas. Thank everyone for all the questions that you brought. Man, you guys were fast and furious today. Listen, it's torn in two. Get out. You can actually vote. I mean, I've already voted. I've done my due diligence. So you do your due diligence. Get out there. You listen to Torn in Two or watching Torn in Two on 103.7, The Beat, or 106. We'll see you next week with the full crew as we talk about politics as we see it in Muskegon. You take care.